Hi, I'm Jiangnan Chen. My major is music and sound for film and games. In this video essay, I'm going to talk about how the impact of development of the internet on music. The spreading technology of pop music is constantly changing with the advancement of science and technology. It has made great contributions to the outspread and popularization of pop music. At the same time, the emergence of new communication technologies such as the Internet. It also subverts the dominant position of traditional music communication technologies, such as records and CDs. It challenges the survival and development of traditional music cultural communication technology. In addition, with the development of the Internet, computers have become platforms and terminals for people to obtain information. By connecting to the Internet on a computer, people can find various musical creations and musical works that they want to search for. This way of obtaining is relatively simple compared to the original records of the traditional music industry, and it doesn't have to pay a high cost. With the development of science and technology and the development of music software, it's possible to make musical works through computers. People can use music software to transfer their music ideas to the computer and create their music works. Moreover, scientists have created many amazing means of spreading music, from the earliest mechanical phonograph to a variety of electronic media. The spread of music has become so convenient and high fidelity. In the 21st century today, the widespread and rapid spread of music is closely related to the widespread use of the Internet and multimedia technologies. This chart provides data on the digital share of overall music sales in the UK from 2004 to 2019. In 2019, the digital share of music revenues was 76.1%, an increase compared to 2018 at 71.9%. This means wireless communication and network media are gradually replacing the traditional transmission methods that use the records. They have not only become the main channel for music communication, but also become the main force and important market for the music development market. To get a deeper understanding of this topic, I have interviewed a musician. In this interview, he will answer some specific questions related to the topic. How does the internet accelerate the spread of the pop music?
Well, at the moment, we have websites like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube,
Yeah.
and I think people can listen to music all the time very quickly, and they can share their favourite songs with each other. Whereas if you go 30 years ago, you had to have a record or a tape or a CD, so it was a bit slower to share your music and to hear new music. But now it's arriving in your phone every day, isn't it?
Yeah. What's the value of the internet to the spread of pop music?
Well, I think at first, when the internet first was invented, the record companies were a bit scared that everyone was going to steal the music, and people wouldn't pay for their music. But now I think things have changed, and I think Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal and all these music platforms where people actually pay for it have been really good, and people, I think, probably listen to more music than they ever did. And you couldn't do that, you couldn't do that without the internet. So in terms of value, and actual money,
Yeah.
I think the music industry probably makes plenty of money. But I'm not sure the people making the music, the artists, I'm not sure they make as much money as they used to.
What's the impact of the internet on pop music production?
Well, I would say that the reason it's affected pop music is because people are able to produce music at home more easily than they used to. Now, that's not directly because of the internet, that's because of computers and how powerful they've become. But it means they can share their music more. And I think that's affected how quickly music changes and how many people are able to share their music and be heard now. So I think without the internet, everyone relies on the record companies to tell everyone about them. Whereas I think now anyone who can record their own music can now be heard. And I think that's what the internet has really done. It's really allowed anyone with a laptop to make their own music and share it. And I think in some ways it's made the more old-fashioned producers have to change their way of working to match.
What do you think is the impact of the internet on the taste of pop music?
That's really difficult to say because pop music always changes. And when you listen to pop music even from 5 years ago, it sounds so different than pop music now. So maybe the style of pop music changes faster than it used to because people can hear it so much faster. But I think that really only applies to popular music like the charts, the top 40, and music that might appeal to very young people. I think the internet has had much less effect on guitar music and country music, and rock music and classical music. I think it hasn't really changed things at all. But definitely pop music has definitely been affected by the internet. I think one of the reasons for that is that there are companies like Splice that if you sign up for it, they have a piece of software that sits on your computer, and anytime you need a new sound, you can type it into Splice and it will bring you that new sound straight to your computer. And I think people work like that a lot more because 20 or 30 years ago, if you wanted some new sounds in your computer, you would have to go on a website and order a CD. They would send you the CD, and then you would have to burn it into your computer, and then you'd have to put it in a file. And then when you were bored with that CD, you'd have to buy another one. Whereas now with Splice, you can instantly choose from millions and millions of new sounds. So that's definitely had a huge impact. I would say the other change it has had is people are able to get sounds that are much better, much faster. So once upon a time, you would have had to get a drummer and then take the drummer to a studio and then get an audio engineer to record the drummer and then get a mix engineer to mix the drummer. Now you can just download some good recordings straight away, job done, no skill needed. So in some ways it's made it easier to make music, which is a good and a bad thing.
What impact do you think the internet has on the record industry?
Well, the record industry, the music industry, it used to be a bunch of companies that were completely in charge of music. Without those companies, you couldn't have a record and you couldn't become famous and successful. And people like, Elton John and George Michaels and even Coldplay, because they've been around a long time, they were signed to big record companies and all the money went through the record company, and they were in control. Now, when the internet first came up, and people were starting to share music for free online, the record companies got a bit of a shock, because suddenly one person could buy the Coldplay CD, and then they could burn it into their computer, and they could share it with millions of people. And the record company lost a lot of money. So they had to change, and it took the record industry a long time to learn what they needed to do differently. And it's really only now, in the last few years, with Spotify and YouTube, that the record companies have started to learn how to make money again. And they're certainly making plenty of money now. But it's also meant that more people can get in the record industry, because you don't need a record company anymore. You can do it all yourself, and you can be in the record industry without anything but a laptop and a few good ideas.
What importance do you think the internet has for pop music?
Well, I think it is 100% important, because it's the only way people listen to music now. Most people who are kind of under 25 listen to music on their phone via the internet, streaming it from Spotify or YouTube. They might listen to music on their laptop. They might be getting music from TikTok, which is obviously relies on the internet. And things like CDs. I don't have any CDs anymore. I do listen to the radio in the car occasionally, but mostly I Bluetooth the music straight off my phone, streamed from Spotify. And I think within a few years, it really will be the only way to get your music. It almost is now. It's the only way my daughter, who's 11, listens to music. YouTube, Spotify, TikTok. That's it. So it really is the only way to get your music these days.
In conclusion, the rise of the internet has gradually brought pop music into our lives in the form of network transmission. With the help of the characteristics of timeliness, reproducibility, and freedom of the internet, it has developed widely and rapidly. The spread of pop music on the internet is actually a new cultural phenomenon. It has both advantages and disadvantages, and it cannot be asserted whether it's good or bad. The development of pop music on the internet is a musical product belonging to the internet era. It has the value of existence and continued development. In the future, people should think deeply, find it reasonable development path, and make it to new glory.